It is a new month, it's a new beginning. Happy new month to you. Yes, I mean you. You're welcome to another episode of Tea or Coffee on High Impact Television. Of course, your first full HD television in Nigeria. And for those of you following us on our social media page, I'm sure you would probably have an idea of what we're talking about. And what we're talking about today is not just particular to corporate organizations or companies. Even your business, it is something you cannot do without. It's something that brings progress to whatever you are doing. And we're talking of the evolution of marketing. So Modupe, when you hear marketing, what comes to your mind?
Okay, good morning. Good morning. The thing is, when I think of marketing, a product comes to my mind. A product you're trying to sell, a product you're trying to put out there for the public eye. And these days, when it comes to marketing, it's not only about products. Humans also market themselves. They become a brand, that, like a brand, a force that people want to relate with. And then, you tend to, marketing comes to play.
The excitement of the new month, they even allow me remember to introduce.
You're
okay, I am
forgiven.
Mura Olapopola and I have Modupe
Modupe
Jacobs with me.
Jacobs.
And we're
Yes.
talking about the evolution of marketing.
Exactly.
Okay, so, most times when people hear marketing, the first thing is, sales, adverts. But then marketing goes beyond that. You have your social media platform for marketing. You also have public relations. And, most organizations and companies actually mix this up. You hear them say sales and marketing department. And marketing is not just about sales. There are other components, there are other factors that makes up
There's a
marketing.
difference between them.
There's a difference. And I am sure our guests would do justice to that.
Exactly.
Yes, as a professional in that field. Okay, so we'll be going on a short break. And when we come back, we'll introduce our guests and you will know more about marketing. Stay tuned, I'll be right back.
Have a thrilling and bonding experience at High Impact Planet Amusement Park and Resort. Enjoy an amazing retreat in our extremely secured environment with our breathtaking rides. Set goals for the upcoming year in our convenient multi-purpose halls. Bond between team members while giving your staff a desirable treat. High Impact Planet. Fun just got real.
Welcome back. It's still Tea or Coffee on High Impact Television. Just before that break, we were talking about the evolution of marketing. And, I forgot to mention that, it's amazing how marketing has evolved over time. Starting from door-to-door, advertising, where a neighbor goes to meet another neighbor saying, okay, I'm selling this, I have a product, if you wouldn't mind. And, using word of mouth to actually say what the product is all about. To handbills, and all. And, after that, it went on, and now we have digital marketing. It's amazing how it has evolved over time. And that's the reason why we want to talk, about the evolution of marketing today. Okay, so before I do all the talking, let me introduce our guest for today. If you have been following us on our social media platforms, you should know who I'm talking about. Okay, I need to make reference to something I saw on his social media platform, that's Instagram, and he said he is a lamp on a hill. And indeed, he is a lamp on a hill,
Yes,
because
definitely.
he is the CEO, One for One Worldwide Limited. He is a business leader, marketing expert, a coach, a public speaker with over 25 years experience gained in leading multinational companies. I am talking of Lampe Omoyele.
Good morning.
You're welcome, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Okay, so we were trying to talk about evolution of marketing, and I want to just, tell us briefly how marketing has evolved over time.
Okay, so as you said in your introduction, marketing has always been with humankind, if you will, in different ways, because marketing really is about positioning a product or a person in such a way that the target market desires it.
Yes.
And as I was reflecting upon this, you probably would even say that marketing started right from the days in the Garden of Eden, when we talk about the Apple.
Apple, yes.
And how it was positioned and how a certain person tried to influence somebody else to take
it.
the apple. So it's always been there. Now, obviously, it has evolved in terms of how marketing has been done over the years. From a global sense, you've come from just basically the word of mouth, other door-to-door advertising. It's gone to what's called the above the line, where you utilize, which is around television, radio, go to the marketplace, hit the gong, and get people to try and buy the product.
Yeah.
It's gone to the age where we started to have the internet, and it's a lot more expanded now with the growth of the internet. We've gone to digital marketing, social media marketing. So it really has evolved over time as consumers have also evolved in their attitudes and behavior.
Yeah, okay.
All right, talking about marketing, what are the various strategies to marketing?
Okay, so let me start from what I might call the basics in terms of marketing. So classically, you have the marketing mix, the 4 P's of marketing. Classically, so you have the product, you have the pricing strategy you need, you have the place strategy, that in terms of distribution, how you get the products to the place where the target market will buy, and then you also have the promotions, and there are all kinds of elements in terms of promotion. Okay, so that's the classical 4 P's. Now, I go on to say that you can actually even have issues around packaging, because packaging, especially for consumer goods, has become a very important part of the strategy. So very broadly, you can use those 5 P's, if you will, to think about the kind of strategy. So you must think about the product strategy, think about the pricing strategy, think about the distribution strategy, and think about the promotional strategy, which has a lot of sub-elements.
All right, so how do you infuse these 5 strategies into your business, making sure that you use profit-making?
I always say that the first place to start is understand who your target market is, the consumer. Once you understand who the consumer is, what the consumer desires are, what these interests are, where will you get the consumer, what are the attitudes, what are the behavior, that's the first place to start. So for a business, any business owner, regardless of the category or industry, starting point is who is the consumer, understand the consumer. Also ask why does the consumer do what she does. Once you understand that in its entirety, there's a framework called the 5 W's and H. Questions you can ask about the consumer to understand who is the consumer, where are they, where do they buy, how do they buy. Once you can answer those questions, then you can begin to utilize the elements of the marketing mix to develop the appropriate product, understand what price points will work for the consumer, understand where they buy so you can put in place your distribution strategy, understand how they consume media. So is it television, is it radio, is it social media? So you first of all must start from the consumer, understand the consumer, and then apply accordingly the elements of the marketing mix. And then you'll be able to then make profit.
Okay. Knowing how interesting and technical marketing is, not everyone can be a marketer. So what are the requirements or qualifications that one has to have to be a marketer? Okay.
So on a light note, everybody markets in one way or the other, right? But in terms of really building professionalism, I think it's first of all important for a person to understand people. Okay. Now, you do not necessarily need a degree to understand people, but you need to study people accordingly. But it helps to at least have some foundation in terms of academic study, regardless of the field. But then as you have that basic academic foundation, regardless of the course, then begin to study marketing from a technical perspective. Have business understanding, study business in different forms, understand elements of advertising, understand branding. And you can do that by reading different books, different journals, follow people who already have gone ahead in the journey. And then also have a sense of strategy. Have a question in mind. It helps to build up marketing skills and have a flair for an element, a flair for creativity.
Creativity.
Those are some of the things that I think are important.
All right, so we have talked about the strategies to marketing, which is the price, your promotion. Now let's talk about, marketing includes promoting your business, promoting your brand. Now let's talk about the different approaches, because what works for you might not work for me. So what are the different approaches to marketing?
Again, different approaches should be guided not by your individual preference as a business owner, but by the preferences of the target market.
Okay.
So once you've identified who the target market is, who the consumer is, and you understand the preferences, the attitudes, the behavior of the target market, then that should guide the appropriate deployment. So let me give you an example. If the product that you have is going to be consumed mostly by teenagers, when I say consumed, maybe bought, it could be a cosmetic brand, it could be a drink. If it's mostly by teenagers, now, and you understand that based on the current profile of teenagers, most teenagers are on social media. They are not listening to radio that much. They're mostly on their mobile phones. So therefore, it means that to reach them, you must be reaching them in platforms that they play, that they associate with.
Okay.
And for teenagers, say an 18 or 19-year-old teenager, the biggest platform today for them is Instagram.
Yes.
So you need to be talking to them on the platform of Instagram. However, if the product or the service is targeted at a female consumer who is 60 years and above, then it's unlikely that many of them are on Instagram. You must be thinking about maybe looking at an appropriate TV station, an appropriate program on a TV station, and deploying your communication to them. So a lot of this, in terms of targeting, really must be guided by the insight that the business owner has about the consumer.
Okay. So most people have this notion that marketing and sales is the same thing, or it can be used interchangeably, but there is a difference. So what is the difference between sales and marketing?
It's always been a point of debate.
Okay.
My position is that marketing is the umbrella. Again, from what we've said already, you have the place, you have the promotion part of it. Now, sales responsibility is to ensure that the product or the service gets to the place where the consumer can see it and potentially buy it. So to that extent, my persuasion is that sales is a component part of marketing. So there's a distinction. Sales takes care of the place part, and in some instances, sales also takes care of some elements of the promotional part when you have sales promotion. So there is a clear distinction, and my belief, conviction is that sales is a part of the marketing mix.
Okay, all right. So talking about, you mentioned the social media as an effective tool nowadays. So what is that unique thing about digital marketing that makes everyone want to use it? Because you go on the social media platform and maybe you're just trying to check out something on the internet, you see different adverts pop up.
Exactly.
So what is that unique thing about digital marketing that makes everyone, want to make use of it now?
So the key thing is that the consumer has evolved over time. And in the same way, marketing, therefore, has to evolve for it to be successful. The consumer today, especially the youthful, and when I use the word youthful, doesn't necessarily mean that they are young. So youthful will be young at heart, regardless of their chronological age.
Okay.
Now, the consumer today is on the go. The consumer today is less patient than she was in years by. And therefore, what digital marketing brings to play is the opportunity to offer information on the go very quickly to the consumer. The other thing about the consumer is that unlike before where you could just pass information to the consumer and walk away, the consumer wants to be engaged, and digital marketing offers that opportunity to engage with consumers. So if you as a business owner is advertising, digital marketing offers the opportunity for the consumer to give almost instant feedback. In fact, these days, a lot of times it's instant feedback to the brand owner. So to that extent, therefore, a lot of brands have seen the relevance of engaging on on social media.
media.
The caveat I would place, again, is just to reinforce the point I made earlier on, that ultimately it's about who the target market is. So while digital marketing, social media marketing is on the ascendance, it's really important that it's relating with the appropriate target.
So you're talking about digital marketing, and now everyone owns. You can easily do it on your phone.
Yes.
You don't have to be with a laptop. You don't have to
Yes.
be in an office.
Yes.
You can even do it from your bedroom. And so is it that the place of advertising, is now on social media? What of billboards? What of, celebrity endorsements? Are they still relevant?
They're absolutely relevant.
Okay.
Absolutely relevant. And that's the caution I always give when I have this conversation, in that, yes, digital marketing is on the rise. Nevertheless, it is not yet able to address 100% of the population or all the relevant target markets. So again, at the risk of sounding like a scratch record, it has to be about the target market of the product or a service.
Okay.
So if TV is the medium through which the target market consumes, then you ought to also be on TV. So TV is very relevant. In
Okay.
fact, globally and in Nigeria to date, TV still accounts for the highest amount of spend in terms of advertising.
Okay.
Digital marketing in the Nigerian context is not yet, based on estimates, up to 10% in terms of spend, but it is increasing. So TV is still relevant, radio is still relevant, out of home still relevant as a reminder medium. The key thing at the end of the day is understanding the media consumption habits of the target marketing and then deploying appropriately. You also asked the question around celebrity endorsement.
Endorsement, yes.
That is also still relevant.
Okay.
Now, it has evolved in a certain way where in the recent past a lot of the endorsement was via television, advertising, in some cases radio, and they generally been called brand ambassadors. Now there's an evolution happening now to what is called influencer marketing.
Marketing. Okay.
So it's an evolution, and you still have a lot of the brand ambassadors now moving on to influencer marketing, and in this case, influencer marketing is more on social media of brands. So it's really an evolution. It's not a complete break from brand ambassadors. It's just now a lot of play is on social media, where the influencers now help interact with the target market or the potential target market of the various brands.
Okay.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that marketing is an umbrella. We have sales on the marketing.
That's
we
my
have
belief.
social media pricing on the marketing.
Yes.
Okay, now, so what part of marketing is effective for profit making in organizations and businesses?
Again, everyone is relevant depending on the target market.
audience.
Okay.
If the product, the target market is mostly on social media, then it's appropriate that a lot of the advertising or the marketing is done on social media.
Okay.
If the person is playing mostly on the road, then you must be thinking about out-of-home advertising, billboards, and also some aspects of social media. So again, there's no blanket response to that. It has to be looking at about targeting. I expect that in the near future, we're going to have a lot of increasing impact of digital marketing and social media. But when the question has been asked of me, do you therefore think that the so-called traditional media is going to die? No, I don't believe it's going to die in the near future. What we are seeing begin to happen, and what is going to happen in the future, is convergence, where you're going to have the traditional media be playing a lot in the new media, such as YouTube. So you have TV commercials now are being adapted to also run on YouTube. We have press ads that are running on social media. So there'll be a convergence. So anybody who's going to succeed in reaching the consumer is going to be able to understand how do you play strongly in the so-called traditional and how do you play strongly in the so-called new media. But as somebody has said, what we're calling the new media today, in another 10 years, is going to be the old media.
media,
So we just need to understand what the trends are. Where is the consumer evolving to? and ensure that our marketing is ahead of the game.
Okay. So in as much as we say that marketing is very important in, profit making when it comes to a product, there are some, okay, I won't be able to mention the brand name,
Yes.
but I'm sure you would know the brand I'm talking about. There's a particular sugar brand that has been over time. And I can't remember, them having, adverts. I've not seen the adverts on either TV, social media, but then they are still very much relevant today. So is it that not all products really need marketing or advertising?
Again, because marketing is not just about TV
Okay.
advertising or radio advertising. Marketing can be done in different forms. Now, I know the sugar brand that you're referring to. It has a huge heritage in Nigeria. So many of us grew up using that brand.
Okay.
Now, so there is residual awareness. And the fact that the brand is still available on shelves is a form of communication. There's something also called presence marketing. The fact that you, as a brand, you're available where the target market can see you. So that is a form of advertising. The packaging is a form of advertising.
Advertising.
So to that extent, that brand, even though it may not have advertised on television or radio or newspapers, has been present.
Okay.
So again, marketing is not just about advertising on TV or radio. There's also the word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
People use a brand and they talk about it to somebody else. And in fact, some studies have found that, especially in this digital age, that word of mouth is such a powerful way of communicating and growing awareness of a brand. Because all people need to do today is just like and share.
Sure, yes. Okay.
All right. Okay, so now talking about marketing, there is no way we'll talk about marketing without talking about the marketers. So now, as a you find out that most organizations and companies tend to fold up due to crisis or situation they cannot handle. So as a marketer, how can you help such situation?
Okay. One, a good marketer should be able to understand the trends that are happening around and also be proactive and anticipate. So if you can anticipate, then you can have scenarios, options, in terms of what do you need to do if XYZ situation occurs. Okay? So if I give a quick example, some years ago I worked on a brand that was going to relaunch. And that brand was going to change packaging design and put human elements for the first time on the packaging design. There was a concern that what if those human elements, one of the characters there on the packaging had a case or something negative, how would we react to it? So before we did that launch, one of the things we had was what we called what if scenarios. What if this happened? What would we do? What if this happened? What would we do? So we had backups in terms of what we probably could do. Okay? Fortunately for us, nothing negative happened. So, but if anything negative had happened, we had in backup certain things that we need to do to react. Now, it's not all the times you can anticipate what could happen. But if you're close to trends and something happens without you knowing, key thing is quickly have an engagement with relevant key stakeholders. Have a relationship with, if there's a government involvement, have key stakeholders that you can engage with. If it has to do with consumers, put out statements quickly to reassure the consumers and the public. In crisis, the thing not to do is remain silent. Silence is an acceptance of what people are saying. You must engage appropriately, use the appropriate language, don't be defensive, and just clarify the issues at hand.
Okay. So when it has to do with the crisis coming from an angle of celebrity endorsement, or and the person causing the crisis now is the celebrity,
Yes.
the brand, the image that
Yes.
you've put out for your
Yes.
brand. How do you handle it? Must you remove, take out the celebrity, or there's another way to
If it's a crisis bordering on issues that are against the brand ethos, issues around ethics and the likes, my advice would be, yes, you do stop the relationship with the brand ambassador. And if it's really an extreme case, I think such a brand should actually come up with a statement that that brand ambassador, the behavior, what he has done, is not in line with the brand ethos, and that the brand is not in support of what the person has done, of such behavior.
Okay.
I think there's an example of that because I
Yes.
know of a blogger who had the same issue. You know, I think a head of programs or something had, you know, that's more reason why I asked the question, because she completely put out a statement
Yes.
saying she had no business to do,
Yes.
you know, with the person in question again. So
Yeah, well, I think you should. The brands should protect their reputation.
Image. Okay. All right. So we have been talking with Lampe Omoyele, the CEO of 141 Worldwide. Okay, we're still on evaluation of marketing. We're going on a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about it. Do stay tuned because you don't want to miss out of all of this. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Walking into comfort in a safe environment is every family's dream. At High Impact Planet Resort, our fully furnished service apartment is a home away from home. Amazing views right in your luxurious world. Work out to keep fit for an amazing body at the gym. Get affordable groceries and personal care items at the supermarket. Feel relaxed and beautify yourself at the fully equipped spa. High Impact Planet. Fun just got real.
this is still Tea or Coffee on High Impact Television, and you are welcome from that break. Yes, we've been talking to Mr. Lampe Omoyele, and he's definitely still here in the studio with us. Yes. So, is there anything like telephone marketing?
Yes, there is.
Okay, so what is telephone marketing all about?
So when you, for example, get a telephone call from one of your mobile telephone providers
Okay.
or high impact calls, me,
Okay.
that's part of telephone marketing.
Marketing.
Maybe to tell about the services or asking me if I've heard of so and so
Okay.
program. So that is telephone marketing.
Okay.
So it's increasingly being done now, especially by, say, telcos or businesses like High Impact Television, to just try and follow up with customers. And with growth of call centers across the world, it's become a lot increasingly so. In fact, to get to the point where with the growth of artificial intelligence, for example, you can actually have even robots that are doing the telemarketing on behalf of brands. You know, it has its pros and its cons. Telephone marketing suggests that there's an interaction, brings brands potentially close to the target markets or potential customers.
Okay.
The risk is if it's just programmed. I mean, the other day, I got such telephone marketing. And even though I had issues with the service provider, the person who was calling me apparently had a list of questions to ask and was not listening to my complaints. I was making some complaints, and rather than address my complaints, was just trying to go through the checklist. So there is telephone marketing. I think the point is, how is it done in such a way that there's an increasing humanness around it that is truly going to address the consumer needs as opposed to just addressing the brand needs.
Okay.
All right.
So do you think if telephone marketing is done the right way, it will gain grounds as digital marketing is now?
I don't think it's growing grounds necessarily on its own,
Okay.
because the thing about telephone marketing is that it's intrusive.
Okay.
I have to speak to the person who is calling at that time if I choose, unless I want to ignore it. But social media or digital, I can go into digital and have the conversation as a customer when I want to,
Okay.
as opposed to when somebody calls me. So I don't think that it's going to grow as fast as social media. I just suggest, in fact, that the customer doesn't want people calling them to give them offers and goods. The customer only wants to talk when he wants to talk.
All right, we are talking about the evolution of marketing. All right, before the era of telephone, how was marketing done?
A lot of word of mouth.
Okay.
So think about our traditional Africa village setting. You will have the bell or the gong and announcing that the market day is on Thursday, for example. So a lot of it before the advent of telephone or television was word of mouth. Someone goes with or without a megaphone and is advertising the product. And if you do remember, for example, even as recently as a few years ago when we had the Molwes in Lagos, you would have somebody selling all kinds of omnipotent drugs in the marketplace. So a lot of it was really more around word of mouth.
Okay, we also had post office. I wouldn't
Yes.
say is also part of marketing.
So mailing.
Okay.
So mail shots is also part of marketing. So someone sends a newsletter to introduce. So the post office historically was also part of the marketing process. Now, mail shots of those days have been more or less replaced by email. So you also now have email marketing, where brands send email talking about their goods, their services to potential customers.
Okay. So the Lagos Digital Marketing Training Summit 4.0 is coming up in October.
Yes, October 6th.
October
yes.
6th. Okay. So for there to be a training on digital marketing, it means that there is a process, there is a way to do it. Can you just, briefly just tell us are the steps to take in digital marketing?
Interestingly, the steps on digital marketing are not critically different from if you were doing your classic advertising on TV or radio. Once you understand who the target market is or the prospects are, you then begin to think about what kind of content would attract the target market, would create attention. So there's an advertising principle that is called the AIDA principle. It's a framework that every advertising, every communication must be such that it can generate attention.
Okay.
It should be able to generate interest, elicit a desire, and therefore drive action in terms of purchase.
Okay.
So what you think about is, from a digital marketing perspective, once you understand the consumer and his habits, his attitudes, his preferences, you then, the next step is decide, if I've chosen to use social media or digital, which of the many platforms should I be using, which will be relevant to the target market. So is it going to be Instagram, is it going to be Facebook, is it going to be Twitter, is it going to be Snapchat, is it going to be LinkedIn? Once you've decided, therefore must understand how do those various platforms, how do the consumers there on those platforms interact? Because LinkedIn interactions are different from Snapchat, they're different from Facebook, different from Instagram. It's different, so you need to understand that from a digital marketing perspective. And therefore, when you then develop content, Instagram, for example, thrives on photos and a bit of videos now. But there are still some restrictions in terms of videos. So if you know you're going to be on Instagram, then to get an impact, you shouldn't have more than a 59-second video, if not shorter. If you're going to be on YouTube, you need to understand that consumers can skip your video in 4 seconds or less. So you need to understand that any communication you have on YouTube, the first 1 or 2 seconds needs to be captivating, grab the attention of the consumer. So understand the different platforms, how they place. Content is king or queen, and therefore it must resonate with the consumer and ultimately lead to action in the favor of the brand. So those are some of the things that one needs to understand, and also understand the fact that you have likes does not necessarily translate to purchase. How do you drive sharing? How do you ensure that the content you share is engaging and people may want to spread it so it becomes like a virus?
Okay, so you talked about social media marketing, you talked about email marketing, you also talked about telephone marketing. Now, all of this strategy or type of marketing is still centered around your target market and your customer.
Yes.
So how important is customer relation and service to marketing?
Extremely important.
Okay.
So once you understand what the consumer and the needs, and customer relations really it becomes important, especially for business to business organizations. That's where a business is selling a service to another business as opposed to just a consumer. But even for consumer businesses, they need to understand how do they relate with their customers and ensure that they're engaged with the customer. Customer satisfaction is what you might call the minimum. What brands should be seeking to do today is exceed customer expectations because competition has become so intense. I always say that the world, they tell us there are over 7 billion customers today. Each customer wants to feel special. So customer relations, customer service is extremely important. Engaging with customers on a proactive basis, going to what it's called personalization, making the person feel that you've selected him and you're giving him special attention is extremely important in today's world.
All right. When it comes to marketing, can we say customer relations and public relations is the same thing, or is there a difference?
No, there is a difference.
Okay.
So customer relations is really speaking to that customer that you already have as a brand or a prospect.
Okay.
Now, public relations is different because it's really talking about looking at stakeholders,
Okay.
some of whom may not be customers or even prospects, or stakeholders that need to be engaged. Stakeholders will include the government. Stakeholders will include the customer, himself or herself. Okay, stakeholders could involve the community around which you exist. So in the case of High Impact, you exist in a community. So part of public relations will mean engaging with the stakeholders, even if they do not come here physically at all. So PR is important because it's a way of engaging with stakeholders and also has an influence in terms of how brands and businesses are perceived.
Okay. You have mentioned different marketing strategy. So which is best to use when for a new product that you want people out there to be aware of?
So for a new product, typically in the life cycle of a new product, 3 key things are the issues they have. Low awareness level, low trial or consumption, and low presence. So once you understand those issues, the thing you have to think about is how do you generate awareness to the product or the service? Now, because there are a plethora of strategies to address awareness, you need to now understand who is the target market. Back to this issue on the target market. Once you understand what the target market is, you then decide where is the best means to reach the person. If TV is the best means, then you must look at some TV advertising. So for any new product, it's about driving awareness and deciding which media, which platform is most appropriate to reach the target market. If the target market is someone who is living in the rural area, then you will need to consider out-of-home billboards and radio. It's unlikely that you will focus primarily on social media, where there are issues around internet access.
Okay. So I took a sneak peek into your Instagram account yet again. And then I saw a post where you talked about the battle of bank brands.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you think that was a brilliant advert or it was not supposed to be?
From a pure marketing perspective, I thought it was brilliant.
Why?
Because it generated conversations.
Okay.
Now, the brand in question, which cannot be named, was a brand that you will not call one of the bigger brands, not one of the stronger brands, not one of the brands that already had what you might call top-of-mind awareness.
Sure.
But as a result of that ad, that generated conversation, good, bad, and ugly, depending on which side of the table you sit. It generated conversations about that brand.
Okay.
And I know for a fact that as a result of those conversations, they have won the hearts of several people, especially the youthful. And they have also therefore won accounts as a result of that. Now, I know there's the flip side, that there was a debate about whether or not it was in line with the regulations of the regulator. And so there were some heated debates around it. But from a purely marketing perspective, it benefited the brand in the eyes of the target market and prospects, such that people who did not even know much about them have actually now known about them. And I think that's what digital marketing can help you do if you do it right.
Exactly.
So are you trying to say you must have a marketing tool that can bring up conversations within your audience before you can be called a good marketing strategy?
I think yes and no.
Okay.
But definitely what every brand wants to do is to be part of conversations. You want to always be in consideration when people are talking about a brand within that sector. So yes, you should do things that can generate conversations.
Okay.
The no part in quotes is you ensure that you're doing those things in an ethical manner. So that's the caveat I'll put. But I think that every brand wants to be or should be part of conversations. If a brand I manage is part of daily conversations, then the better for my brand, because then people will consider buying it. And that's what you want to do as a brand owner. So yes, you should be thinking about being part of conversations, but bear in mind ethical considerations.
All right, talking about generating conversations, now, how can you tell, because you mentioned earlier on a case of where you had to sit with colleagues to talk about the product you're putting out there. Now, how can you tell when a product is going to generate negative conversations or controversies?
All right, so, and that's the beauty of brainstorming and having conversations, understanding what competition is like, what they're likely to do, understand where, what the regulations are there legal frameworks. So once you're holistic in your conversations, then you at least you can have an idea of what could generate controversy or conversations.
Okay.
All right. So there are some times when, as a marketer, you decide that, this is likely to be controversial. And I'm sure that the bank brand that ran the ad you referred to, I'm sure they must also have thought that, look, this will definitely create controversy. But they must have said, look, you know what, let us err on the side of that. Let's generate the controversy. Let's have the conversations going through. So there are times as a marketer, you know that it will likely create controversy. Definitely what you're looking for is conversation, right? Now, if you are safe, you feel safe enough, confident enough, you go ahead with it. If you're not sure, then you hold back. So let me give you an example. So some years ago, another brand that I was involved in, it's a sweet brand. And a sweet brand that can help with clearing your throat. And it was number one brand, a strong brand, that always advertised in terms of singing and things like that to just show clearing the throat. So we thought that, to build it further, let's run an outdoor campaign that rather than use human beings, let's use a cockerel, a rooster, because in the African setting, when in the morning, it's the cockerel that gives that loud sound. And we thought, look, there's a way to reinforce it, that, look, it clears your throat, so how else can you not use a symbol, right? And I personally thought that it will generate conversation, some controversy, that using a cockerel to advertise a sweet brand that human beings take. And we were prepared to run with it. But some of us internally had some reservations that would it be misread to say we're now saying that that brand is consumed or can be consumed by cockerels. So we didn't run it. So there are times when you just decide that, look, is it safe or not?
Okay, so are you saying negative conversations can be an added advantage?
Yes,
Okay.
it can be.
So-
But you need to understand how far do you want to stretch yourself. Because if well not managed, it can come back to haunt the brand. So you need to have looked at all the scenarios involved. But
Okay.
yes, so negative controversy can actually propel a brand.
Okay, so it's not all negative controversies you avoid.
No,
Okay.
no.
All right.
That will take us back to the battle of the bank brands.
Yes.
Because in as much as they had to take it down, they already achieved a goal.
Yes.
Which was the conversation
Yes.
and then getting more people to listen.
Absolutely.
So okay, now let's go to branding. What is the place of branding, in marketing? Because some people, okay, let me take it from individuals. Because I was saying earlier, that it's not only products that we brand.
Yeah.
Individuals. I can be a brand. You can be a brand. You are a brand already.
Everyone is, potentially.
Yes. So, what is the place of branding? How can you create that perfect brand, that brand that everyone would love?
First of all, I don't think that you can create a brand that everybody would love,
okay.
right? If not, there will be no competition.
Yes, true.
But branding simply is the process of creating a perception in the minds of people, very simply.
Okay.
Now, how you create a perception is now the role of marketing in different forms. In terms of how available is the person, what's the level of presence, how does the person look, how does the brand look, how does the person talk, how does the brand talk, because brands talk, what is the tonality of speech. So it's a full gamut of branding. And there's a concept called brand equity,
Okay.
which is a measure of the strength or otherwise of a brand. The stronger the brand equity of a brand, the greater the potential of that brand to succeed.
Okay.
And there are certain elements that drive brand equity. One, for example, is awareness. So the more known a brand is, the greater the potential for the brand to be strong, right? And that's why the role of branding and other elements we're talking about are key. Also, an element of brand equity is the perception that people then have about that brand. Also, what's the value that the brand brings to play? So, if I'm an actress,
Okay.
do I deliver my role well such that I have a huge following? So it's about awareness, it's about the value that you bring into play. It's even around what kind of icons do you have, right? Now, we can't mention brands, but if I did this, you likely know which brand it is. So that brand has built certain imagery around itself. So that's how the branding process can help. And from a human being perspective, a personality branding perspective, each person also has to think about it in those regards.
Okay, earlier on I asked the question about when a brand or when an organization is folding up. Now let's look at an organization that has folded up, and no one is hearing anything about the organization. Now, as a marketer, you want to bring back that brand. You want people to still be aware that, okay, look, this thing is still going on. Okay, fine, they had crisis, but we are still on. How do you do it as a marketer to create awareness to people about the brand?
I think before you even think about creating awareness is that you have to develop that new, strong proposition.
Okay.
Because if it folded up for certain reasons. Maybe the consumer or the target market was no longer interested in it. Maybe the product, the brand, the business had gone to what you call the maturity and decline stage of the life cycle. So one of the things you have to then do is relaunch it. And you build a stronger proposition that consumers can begin to think about. And then you therefore communicate that proposition. Having built a strong proposition that is innovative, that is differentiated, that can create a different position in the minds of the consumer that is potentially stronger than competition. You then communicate that new benefit, those new propositions to the target market through the different means we talked about. It could be TV, it could be social media, depending on who the target market is. But the first point is build a strong proposition that is differentiated from competition.
Okay. So, as an individual, she talked about it in the light of a company.
Yes.
Now, I am a celebrity,
Yes.
and due to some issues or crises, I started to lose my followers. I started to lose my fans because of a certain attitude. How can I correct it? How can I rebrand? How can I rebrand?
So if you want to rebrand, then you first of all correct what it was that had gone wrong. Now, if it was an extreme issue,
Okay.
I think a good place to start is to apologize
Okay.
and accept that people, I messed up, but I've learned from it.
Okay.
And this is what I want to do. And then ensure that you're consistent the celebrity is consistent in good behavior, and might help if the person then has a hit. For example, is a singer or a comedian. You have a focus on developing your product proposition such that it is really good, and then people see the quality of what the celebrity has done, and then followership can begin to come back. But there's something about being consistent in terms of branding that just helps people grow. But yes, there are times when a brand would mess up. I think a good place to do is accept, apologize, and then begin to move on.
All right. Okay, so you made it to the 50 most influential,
It's arguable, but yes.
Yes, the 50 most influential marketing communication practitioners. So now tell us more about marketing communications and how it affects sales of business or brands.
Okay. So marketing communications is part of the marketing mix that we talked about earlier, the promotion parts of it. And under marketing communications, you could have TV, social media, digital, all we've talked about so far. Now, it's really critical because even if you have a product, if you don't communicate about it and inform the marketplace about it, they won't know about the product, not talk about even trying it.
Okay.
So marketing communications is extremely important in creating awareness about products, goods, services, brands, generating interest, stimulating desire, and ultimately driving action in favor of the brand. So it's fundamental. There's no brand that really will survive without an element of marketing communications. And the biggest brands in the world and in Nigeria are the ones that have gotten their marketing communications right, in addition to having products that meet the consumer expectations. So even the sugar brand that we talked about earlier on has had elements of communication, even if it's only word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Okay. So as she said, you made it to the 50 most influential.
Arguable, but yes.
Okay, yes. I'm sure people would like to know how you were able, to make it to that point, because you've had over 25 years of experience. How have you been able to be on top of your game?
I think clearly it's about driving for knowledge on a consistent basis, being aware of trends. So how do you get aware of trends? It's about reading all kinds of materials, having conversations with people who know. And in this day and age where it's really around new trends and the world is moving very fast. So one of the things I've tried to do is keep engaged with different demographics. So I relate quite a bit with people who are chronologically, I like to say, they're younger than me. It doesn't mean that they are more youthful. Anyway, but that's on the side. So just relating with different demographics, different people, opening up my mind to new learnings and seeking to reinvent myself as time passes. And I think it's really important that one seeks to sustain relevance through knowledge, through learnings and interactions with different types of people.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lampe.
Lampe.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Lampe Omoyele, for coming. It's been amazing listening to you. I've learned quite a lot about marketing.
Yes, the strategies, the approaches.
Exactly.
Most especially, I would not forget the 5 P's, the price, the promotion.
4 P's.
You mentioned
Well,
another
classically
one,
4 P's, but I take out
Okay.
packaging from the product element because my experience is that, especially for consumer durable goods, the packaging plays a key part in influencing consumer behavior.
Yes.
Okay. All right, then. Thank you very much once again for
Thank you.
joining us on the program today. But it is on this note that we have to wrap up the show. Please do be sure to join us, same time, same station, tomorrow for another exciting episode of Tea or Coffee. My name remains Mudukla Jacobs.
And I am Raola Pokwala.
Enjoy
Have
your
a
day.
great day.